I'm speaking today with Stewart Ballie, who is the chairman of Unmanned Systems Canada, which is a nonprofit group advising and promoting the drone industry as well as various other unmanned systems. Welcome, Stewart.
Welcome. Hello.
uh, Now that I have you on the line, I did want to get an understanding of how Unmanned Systems Canada is working with Transport Canada in order to establish a new set of guidelines for drone use in this country.
Well, as the representatives of industry, the regulation is key. And so we've been working with Transport Canada, pulling industry members together, other interested parties, going through the regulations for manned aircraft and trying to figure out how they can be applied to develop a safe culture and infrastructure for unmanned aircraft.
At this point, there is already a system in place, the SFOC. What does that stand for, and what does it entail?
A Special Flight Operations Certificate, an SFOC, is the means that Transport Canada is using right now to authorize flights of unmanned aircraft. And for each of those, the operator must identify exactly what their operation is and how they are looking and dealing with the potential risks and hazards of that operation. A regional inspector of Transport Canada reviews that, and if he believes it's a prudent approach, he issues a Special Flight Operations Certificate, which allows the operation to take place.
Now, as I understand it, there are certain things that essentially all SFOCs come with, and that is a height restriction. I believe that's 120 meters. Is that correct?
In general, there's a 120-meter height restriction. If you want to have a higher one, you've got to prove how you're managing that increase of risk. But in general, they're all held to that limit.
Now, tell me about how Canada is somewhat ahead of the U.S. in terms of commercial drone use.
Well, you're quite right. Canada is quite a bit ahead, and it's because our regulations from the very start allowed us to issue these special flight operating certificates to users. In the United States, they don't have that mechanism, and so right now there's no regulatory means for them to authorize other than major exemptions. And so in the United States, commercial use is in general banned. It is illegal to operate these unless you've got a special exemption, while in Canada you can apply and get these special flight operation certificates to fly legally.
Now, one area, or one field, if you'll pardon the pun, where drones are having a significant impact is in farming. How are these machines being used in agriculture?
It's an amazing application. The unmanned aircraft will fly over a field and either using cameras or infrared sensors will take images of the field and be able to assess the crop health, the amount of water, the amount of greenness in the crop. And based on that, the farmer can modify his fertilization schedule or his distribution of fertilizer on the field. He can apply pesticides or herbicides. He can understand where the stronger areas of soil are, and then next year he'll change how he seeds the field so he gets better yield. It's all called precision agriculture, and it's probably one of the key applications where unmanned aircraft will add huge value to all of our economies.
So this is going to have a significant economic impact on the business of farming?
Oh, absolutely. The use of the precision approach reduces the cost per acre for the farmer, and he gets the absolute most out of the acreage that he can. So it's really worthwhile.
Now, are there different types of drones that are used for farming than the quadcopter or 6 or 8 prop copter that we have been seeing, I guess more so in the news?
Well, You can use the small quadcopter or six-copter or eight copters, an octocopter, I'm not sure. But a lot of the farmers are using some very small fixed-wing aircraft as well. Wingspans of this sort of dimension that just fly over the field. Now, as the farms get bigger, you need a more capable aircraft, and so you get larger and larger unmanned aircraft for those larger fields.
Another area that we talked about previously before we started this interview was infrastructure examination, going out into the field and taking a look at a bridge that may need repair. Are there adaptations that need to happen to the rules around drone use that will allow for that type of use of drones to be maximized?
Yeah, well, it depends what infrastructure you're looking at. If you're looking at a bridge, you can probably operate where you can actually watch the unmanned aircraft and you can perform surveillance in the airspace to make sure that you don't fly into anybody or anything. So that's probably okay. But when you start looking at flying over highways or pipelines or power lines where you've got long distances involved, you need a technology to ensure that that unmanned aircraft doesn't fly into another aircraft or something else on the ground or in the air. So that's the real key area right at the moment. It's called sense and avoid. And the technologies of sensing other airspace users and being able to automatically deviate the unmanned aircraft so you don't collide is really the key research area right now, and it's the area where the regulations will have to catch up as well.
At this point, as I understand it, the SFOC regulates that you must be in line of sight. So what sort of system do you envision would take place of line of sight in order to be properly used for looking at power lines that might be downed in an ice storm or such?
Well, the sense and avoid technologies that people have been using are optical cameras with some very sophisticated software behind them, radars, infrared sensors, all sort of scanning an array of area in front of the aircraft and sometimes behind the aircraft, because these aircraft move pretty slowly, to ensure that they don't fly into something else. So there's a whole bunch of technologies being used right now. Optical has a real good promise, but radar, a whole variety of other technologies as well. Very similar, in fact, to what airlines use. It's called ACAS, Automatic Collision Avoidance System, and we just have to make it smaller for unmanned aircraft.
There have been some stories in the media about the use of drones in hunting, and I know that both Manitoba and Saskatchewan have preemptively put some rules in place that say that this is not something that you can use a drone for. What's the situation in Ontario?
Well, as I understand it, the Ontario Ministry of Natural Resources considers an unmanned aircraft, or a drone as you call them, as a vehicle. And there are specific regulation already in place that prohibits the use of vehicles to assist a hunter in tracking and hunting prey. So effectively, there is already a ban on unmanned aircraft for the use in hunting operations.
Do you think, though, that somebody who is a hunter who may have bought a hobbyist drone would understand that they need to view that as a vehicle?
Well, that's a real problem, and it's bigger than just the hunting community. All the individuals buying these unmanned aircraft at your local electronics store, a lot of them have no idea of the various regulations involved, be it those imposed by Transport Canada or those imposed by other parts of the government, the Ministries of Natural Resources, the privacy commissions. All of those regulations all apply, and educating the purchaser, the owner of these aircraft, is a major challenge that hopefully things like media help to address.
How much of a concern for your organization and your members is the hobbyist market as these recreational drones become more sophisticated and there are more untrained amateurs out there flying them? Are you worried that that will have a negative impact on your commercial drone users?
Well, a big incident will have an impact on a whole bunch of people, and we're really trying hard to avoid such an incident. We respect the rights of people to have a recreational activity. We don't want to regulate these out of existence, but at the same time we want to ensure that the recreational user understands the safety implications and doesn't pose a hazard to other people in the airspace or people on the ground.
One of the things that the Special Flight Operations Certificate states is that this is a commercial venture and that you cannot have a commercial drone use without an SFOC. But say I'm flying my recreational drone and taking pictures or video of something, and I happen to catch something that is newsworthy or has commercial value. Can I sell that footage or picture after the fact, given that I did not have an SFOC for the flight?
Well, that's certainly a gray area in the regulation. Overall, a commercial operation is an operation where you're either for hire or you get some level of reward from the operation. So in the example you've provided, the operator would get a reward at the end, the income from selling. So that flight, post-flight, has become a commercial operation. They better talk to Transport Canada and make sure that they're coordinated with the regulator before they try to do something like that.
Stewart, thanks for joining me this afternoon. I think we've provided some bit more information. When can we expect to see new regulations out of Transport Canada?
Well, Transport Canada is working really hard on this file. I was actually meeting with them last week. We're expecting something imminently, and we understand that they're accelerating their processes to try to get something out by the end of the year that will be enabling and yet streamlined and start to address all of these concerns that we're raising.
Thanks again, Stewart, for being part of the agenda. We look forward to those new rules, and perhaps we'll chat again later once they're in place.
It's my pleasure, Greg. Thank you.